The rejuvenation of McLaren in 2019 ended up being one of the stories of the season, with new drivers Carlos Sainz and Lando Norris and a new team principal in Andreas Seidel. They not only returned to the podium, but crucially finished fourth in the Constructors' Championship. But from even halfway through the year, the team was stating that it intended to radically change the concept of its car coming into 2020. With that in mind, the MCL35 has been one of the most anticipated in the sport. You join us then in the depths of the McLaren Technology Centre here on the outskirts of Woking in Surrey, back in good old Blighty. Will Buxton, Lawrence Barretto with you again, and good to actually see a car today.
Oh, definitely. After Renault, it was nice to see something brand new, and also a car that we're going to hopefully see that's going to be pretty close at testing to what we saw today. It's really good that I think McLaren really put the effort in to put a launch together like this, got the car ready in time, and it looks good. Like, it looks dramatically different, I think, to last year, and that's so exciting.
Yeah, it is, and great to hear the drivers being excited as well. We're going to hear from them right now, so let's start this thing off talking about the drivers. I think it seems quite astonishing to think they've only been at this team for a year, and they've only been teammates. Lando's only been in Formula One for a year, because they're so entrenched in what this team is, what it represents. They're such a part of this team. They get on so well. It seems like it's been a relationship that's been, they've been together for years.
It's blossomed. They're like brothers, I think, essentially, and that really helped McLaren move on, kick on last year, I think, because they got on so well, they could work together, there was no hiding of information. I think that was a real benefit. This year, I think it's going to be really important they continue that. I think it will be interesting, because Lando's a bit more settled now. He's not that young gun. He was talking about how last year he perhaps didn't say what he felt, he didn't say what he wanted, because he didn't want to lead the team down the wrong path. So I think, this year he's going to push a bit harder, and I think that might mean that we might see them a little bit closer on track.
Well, it's the interesting thing, isn't it? Because they're both aware that this is still one of those building years for McLaren. They were both very mindful of that. Something Andreas said today as well. Both of the drivers know that, yes, they want to be competitive with each other, but they're part of a bigger project, and that bigger project is drawing McLaren through to 2021 and their bold sort of new future. But they do work well together. They have similar wants and demands from the car, even if last year, and this is something Lando said, one day he'd be saying, oh, the car's great, and Carlos would say, I hate it. So slight differences there, but as you said, if Lando has built it into himself over the winter that he's going to be more honest, be more forthright in what he wants, that can only be a good thing.
Definitely, and he looks more confident this year. He's talking about being in the factory more. If you're in the factory more, you're spending more time with the engineers, you're putting forward your case for what you want. And so I'm quite excited to see what Lando can do, because he had the bad run of the green with the reliability, didn't he?
And also last year was a big year for Carlos Sainz, of course. It looked like this was a last sort of chance hurrah for him, really, having been let go by Red Bull, and then he didn't have the seat at Renault, and where else was he going to go other than all that was left really was McLaren. Yet he's turned that kind of last gasp opportunity, that turned the pig's ear into the sow's ear into the silk purse, as the saying goes, and it's become this wonderful opportunity for him. Enough from us though, probably. Let's actually hear from the drivers and their thoughts on going into this 2020 season. You were incredibly self-critical in your first year in Formula One. How important was that time over the winter to actually look back over everything that you did in that year and actually give yourself a bit of an easier time over it and appreciate actually what you achieved?
I think I have done. I've appreciated more over this winter what I did. Obviously we have a lot of the stats, and the guys here work out and know more what was achievable, what wasn't achievable, and how I should have done basically in my first season, comparing to previous results from different circumstances and everything. So looking at them, then it kind of gave me a bit more confidence, and it's not like everyone here just tries to make me feel good. We want to help each other, and a lot of that is by being serious and being honest, and saying, right, look, you're pretty terrible here, or you're good here, and what I need to and don't need to work on.
What do you think you can achieve in your second year in Formula One?
Formula One's a guessing game until you get to Australia. Everyone always says it, but it's true. So I think as long as I've worked on the things I know I needed to work on, and as a team we have worked on, and from what we see in the data and aero and everything, things are taking steps forward, but at the same time I'm sure every other team on the grid is taking steps forward as well. So I think if we just focus on ourselves, we don't think about the numbers of being fourth or even third or fifth or whatever. It's just focusing on ourselves, doing the best we can, and hopefully the results will speak for themselves at the end of all of it. So yeah, at this point it's too early to talk numbers and talk positions and points and everything. It's just getting our heads down and keeping our heads down, and see how it goes after the first few races.
How much is this car reflective of the feedback you were giving to the team, and how much is it reflective of James Key and the influence that he's had since starting here?
Well, it's a combination of things. We obviously, as drivers, we give the feedback. We tell the team pretty much where we think we are lacking compared to our direct competitors, compared to what we like, how the car we would like it to handle in certain corners, in certain speed ranges, in certain parts of the corner. So it's very, very precise feedback, and obviously the team has tried its best to suit that better to our driving styles and to what we think we need to improve. Will it be done straight away in car launch or in Barcelona the test one? For sure not. It's going to be a process of a whole year, but hopefully this car is already a step forward compared to last.
How big a change do you think it will be?
It's a different car. It's a completely new car in terms of the whole packaging, the way, the amount of effort that the team has put into. There's a lot of new bits, new pieces that we need to find out in testing if they are working correctly. But at the same time, it's the big brother of the McLaren 34, which was a very good car. It was a car that allowed us to finish fourth in the constructors, and we want to build from there.
And it got you on the podium. So for this year, what's the objective? Is it hold on to fourth? Is it fight for third? Get back to the podium? What are the objectives?
I think podium is always a target in terms of motivation for the whole team. For myself, you never know what can happen in a Formula One race, and you always target that. The thing is, we need to consolidate fourth in the constructors. I think that's the primary objective. And then obviously use opportunities and keep looking at the bigger teams, saying, okay, see if we can get closer, see if we can fight them, but I think it's still going to be a bit too early.
Carlos and Lando then, the bromance continues, but for how long? If they've got a competitive car, can they stay friends? Will they stay friends? How long until it becomes toxic?
I think that's what's interesting. I think when we saw a couple of years ago Checo and Esteban Ocon, that became toxic very quickly. I'm not sure this one's going to go down the same path. They're very different characters, aren't they, Will? But I feel that there is something there that could start burning halfway through this year.
Well, of course, the people who will be responsible for snuffing out that flame, if it shows any sign of starting, is the team management, which takes us on to our next talking point. If the car starts to be as competitive as you hope it will be, do you think they'll be able to maintain the relationship that they have, the kind of almost the brotherhood that they have, without it getting toxic?
Well, I think first of all with the personalities as they are, Carlos and Lando, I think there's a good chance that it stays like that. I think also, given the situation where we're in at the moment as a team, we're still on this journey to get back to where we all want to be, to the front in Formula One. I think also in 2020 they both understand that it is not about the challenge between these two guys. Of course, there's always a competition, and it has to be a competition as well. But it's important, and they understand this. They need to work together in order to keep pushing the team forward, because the only chance for them to fight higher up at some point in their career is if we give them a car that is better, and if we get a better or become a better team. And with the rules of engagement we have also in place in terms of approaching a turn one, for example, I'm quite optimistic that we get through this season as well.
How happy are you?
Very happy. This is the exciting part of the season. We're getting started. I know all the effort that went into building that race car, the 800 men and women at McLaren, so it's fun to show it to the world, our fans, and now I want to see it on the racetrack next week.
What is the objectives for you and for the team this season? Because fourth was such a fantastic result last year.
Yeah, I think fourth was a great result, our best result since 2012. I think there's still a big gap to third, so I think it's unrealistic to think we're going to close that gap to the point where we are third. We're going to try. But, until the cost cap comes in, it's unfortunately a bit of a fiscal championship if you look at where everyone is. And so we're kind of slotted in where we spend along with Renault. So what we really need to do is, this is the first year I'll have my whole team in place, Andreas, James Key, where, they've designed and developed that car. And so we just need to improve on where we are. Whether that means we improve in constructors championship, we'll see. But better pit stops, more reliability in Q3 more often. We've got two great drivers, so I'm looking forward to the season. You
talk about the drivers, you talk about James and Andreas. It seems like all the blocks are there in the foundations of what could be an incredibly promising future for the team.
Yeah, I'm really happy with kind of sitting here. I've got my racing team in place. Andreas is exactly who I wanted to have come run the team. James Key is who we wanted to have as technical director. Like, they've shaped the organization in a really smart way. We've got two great, exciting drivers. Commercially, we've been very successful in the off season. So Mark Waller is running marketing. We've brought on a lot of new partners. So it's all coming together, but it's hard, and it's going to take some time.
Is the MCL 35 going to take McLaren back to the top step of the podium, to fighting for world championships, or is that asking a little bit much?
I think it's a stepping stone. It's asking too much to consider that they're going to be challenging for race wins, but I think that doesn't matter so much. They're just going to need to keep improving year on year. They got a podium last year, and that was fortuitous. But if they can get a podium this year on form, that's a massive step forward. I think both drivers are comfortable now. They seem to like the look of the car. Carlos was talking about how aggressive it looks. It's quite tight towards that rear end,
very.
Which I think that means that they've had the confidence to really push the limits. And I think a team that's got confidence is a team that's really happy with where they are. And I think that's an exciting time.
That's an exceptionally good point, actually. They said from about halfway through the season, it's a point I made at the top of the show, that despite the success, despite how well the car was going, they were going to change the core philosophy of the car into this year. Have they wholesale changed the philosophy, do you think, or is it, as with most teams, evolution over revolution?
I think it's evolution, but I think they've been quite strong in that evolution.
Yeah.
They've not played it safe, I guess. And this is obviously the first car that James Key's really had a
and
chance to
you can see the key elements in it already. Particularly around the side pods and the sort of the detailing, the intricacy around the car as well. There's some keyisms in there, aren't there?
And I think that's nice. I think that's what they brought him in for those real small details, because all those details matter. And I really hope that if they let him kind of express himself in this way, continuing going forward, it's only going to be a positive thing for McLaren, I think.
Absolutely. We can't sort of not talk about the pressure that sits on McLaren of trying to get to the top when you are surrounded by these cars and this history. I think everybody's aware of what McLaren means to the sport, what it means, to motor racing in general, and trying to get it back to where it fell from. I think there was in the past potentially a feeling that they were trying so hard to get back there that they were almost falling over themselves to do so. And again, it goes back to Seidel and that calm approach, maybe, that they are taking it step by step and they know what they need to do to get back up there.
I mean, McLaren aren't alone in that, by the way.
No, that's true.
You look across all sport and people maybe try too hard, too quickly to try and get back to where they want to be. I do think that his calm influence that you said, you can just feel it, the way that he deals with people. Lando was talking about how easy he is to deal with. I just feel that really just makes a difference. It's such a small thing, but I think it's making a difference. And I guess you come into this place every day and it must be so inspirational to see all these cars and see how successful the team has been in the past. And that must just really motivate you to want to keep kicking on and bring them back to where they used to be.
All of which brings us to the expectations the team will face going into 2020. A podium then in 2019 for McLaren, but Lawrence, as you've already said, this year they want the same, but they want it because they deserve it through merit, not through chance.
And it's going to be a really difficult thing to achieve because the big three teams are so far ahead at the moment, and then they've got to think about teams like Renault maybe coming back at them this year, and you've got to imagine that Renault, with the resources that they've got, are going to hopefully feel like they can attack them a bit more. But you know what, McLaren, as we've just talked about, they've got a very settled leadership team. They've really got stuck in with the car, and James Key's had some time to really work on this car, so you kind of feel like they're in a really strong position. There were times last year when McLaren was very quick, like racing Red Bulls, and I feel like if they can do that on a consistent basis, there's no reason why they can't be up there.
There's just a really good feeling around here today. I mean, there has been around the team all the way through last year, this sort of rising wave of positivity through McLaren that I hadn't felt in a long time, and it seems to have permeated every level of the outfit. But coming here today, seeing the launch of the car, as you said, something that looks aggressive, something that looks really racy, and we made the point to Andreas, and we said, look, it looks fast. And he said, yeah, but we won't know until we get to Barcelona for testing. And that's true, but there is this kind of truism in racing that a fast car could be fast or it could be not fast, but a car that looks slow is never going to be fast, and that car doesn't look slow.
No, it doesn't.
It looks proper, and I know, you know, that's not the most technologically advanced description of the MCL35,
Shocking, yeah.
but it does. Thanks, mate. It does look. It looks proper. It looks really sorted out, and if it goes as well as it looks, I've got a good feeling. I've got a good feeling about McLaren this year. I really do.
And it's not just you. Well, I think the team have got a good feeling, and if the team have a good feeling, they generally want to look on the more pessimistic side, just because they don't want to Exactly, they don't over expect. So I feel like here, like you're saying, you walk around this place and everyone is buzzing, and I feel like it's really nice that they've managed to get everything together, and I'm excited as well.
Let's hope we've not jinxed them. Been a great day in Woking. Thanks to McLaren for having us here.